Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Chris here from Big Sports News X Rotation, however the flipping on these interwebs. And today I'm going to be bringing you guys something similar to what I did yesterday. So, box scores and then series recaps. So, without further ado, hope you guys enjoyed the intro as always. And yeah, we kicked things off with the team that you guys know I thought would be taking it. I thought G2 would win this series, no pun intended. But the Miami Heretics said, take my Vamos and, take it with you to the next season. Hopefully, you guys can get a better roster and maybe become a little bit better. So it was a game 7 for the ages. Let's check out the box score and be a little topical with it. Not going to go super in depth this time. If you want that, come back on Tuesday, let's say, for my tournament recap. So we kick things off on a gridlock map 250 to 220, where, well, actually, let's do a series overview real quick. So man of the match, of course, was Metals 146 and 126, 1.16 KD, 115 and 111 from Rancor, 125 and 131 from Real. So he was just running it down. And then Super 113 and 118. On the other side, you of course had the Dark Prince with 142 kills. He went absolutely nuts. Kremp 125, 124. And then Beans -5, so not that bad. Nasty -15. Everybody in the lobby was shooting. Nobody has anything to be ashamed of on either team. But Heretics were able to obviously walk away with it in the game 7, as you guys can see. So we had Benjamin Beans going absolutely nuclear on the map 133 and 26 to will his team to a map 1 victory. Everyone else went -1, so they all contributed, did their 25%. Beans, you could argue, did about 28 to 30%, right? And that's why they got the win. But on the Heretic side, everybody was pretty close to even or positive. Rancor was only -3 and Super was negative by 1. So everyone was shooting in this gridlock hardpoint. Very even slaying effort across the board. In the map 2 S&D, pretty much a similar story with the exception of Super, who was the worst performer in the lobby, 4 and 10. But everybody else had a pretty decent performance in this map 2 on Fringe. So as you guys can see, 8 and 9 from Benjamin Beans, 10 and 9 from the Dark Prince, 7 and 8 from Kremplossus, and Nasty went even 7 and 7. In the Heretic side of things, you of course have Metals going 10 and 6, Real 8 and 9, Rancor 11 and 7 with the dub in the round 11, and then Super 4 and 10. In the map 3, Den HP, this was kind of surprising. I'm sorry, Den HP, Den Overload. This was kind of surprising me because Heretics has not really been the strongest Overload team on the year. So I definitely expected G2 to have more of an edge in the Overload in this series, but it looked like Heretics had more of an edge because evidently they took it, right? So 36 and 22 from Metals. He was a difference maker in this series and in this map, clearly, right? 22 and 22 from Real. Rancor went even, and so did Super. But it just felt like in this map and in this match, Metals was everywhere doing everything. So in the map 4, more of the same. You had Real going for 30 and 28, Metals going for 29 and 25, Rancor 27 and 21, and Super 25 and 22. And that's how the Heretics were able to take a sake with a 37-point margin. And then on the other side, everybody went negative. No one really did that bad. Nasty was -7, which is the worst performance on his team, but in context, he didn't perform that bad. So in the map 5, speaking of people who didn't perform that bad, G2 finally did not perform that bad, and they were able to get a 6-4 victory in this gridlock S&D behind 12 and 6 from the Dark Prince, the oldest player on the team, the man with the most hardware, right? Only person on this team to have a tournament win or a champs ring, right? So Envoy willed him to this one behind 12 and 6 for himself, 7 and 5 from Kremp. Nasty went even, and Beans was 6 and 8. So great performance from all 4 players on G2. Conversely, on the Miami Heretic side, Super was really, really bringing them down in this one with a 3 and 8 from typically their shot caller in S&D. A little bit surprising, but everybody has off series sometimes, right? Or off maps, rather. Real was 10 and 8, so the prodigal son returned home, and he was doing his thing in this one. So in the game 6 gridlock overload, this of course went 5-3 in the favor of G2. It was close up until about the last minute. Beans got a last second score, made it 4-3, and then at that point, it was pretty much all she wrote, right? Heretics, they lost momentum. G2, they got the slaying momentum, and they never let it go. They were slaying them out in their base, and they just ran it up, getting the last 2 subsequent scores. So G2 went absolutely nuts, 32 and 23 from Kremplock, whatever we want to call this map. Envoy, the Dark Prince, 31 and 27. Beans was 24 and 21. He was not only good for your heart, but he was good for G2 in this map number 6, right? On the other side, Metals only player to go even on the Heretics side. Not that surprising considering Metals was the lobby MVP by a mile. So, speaking of MVP by a mile, in this Game 5 Round 10 series, it was Mr. Super himself. He did not stretch the bomb defuse like his teammate Real. That was a whole controversial thing. So, Real stretched the bomb in the round 2, maybe 3. Then Kremp used a stair glitch in round 5, I believe. And yeah, it was a whole thing because basically what the stretch diffuse does is it means that you can get yourself out of the typical sight line that a player would use to check the bomb to see if someone's diffusing. And basically, it's an exploit in the game. So you're using an exploit in a competitive environment. No one's ever going to be okay with that. It's an unintended exploit. So, unintended exploit or not, the Miami Heretics were able to win this one, saying ball don't lie. You guys used a glitch, we used one, and we won. So, 9-8 from Nasty, 7-7 from Kremp, 8-9 from Metals, 4-7 from Real on the Heretic side, 8-7 from Rancor, and 11-6 from Super. And like I said, on the G2 side, Beans only player I didn't really name. Yeah, and Envoy as well. 7-9 from Beans, 6-7 from Envoy. And yeah, that's all she wrote. I mean, Heretics looked phenomenal here, and they moved on in the bracket to face another team that we'll talk about in a second. So in our next series, we had Movie Star Koi taking on the 100 Thieves side, and Scrappy and the boys were looking for a big rebound after having a very, very embarrassing CouchChamps, right? Getting sent home in shambolic fashion, double bopped by Falcons and G2? G2. Yes. So, looking at the series overview, of course, Hydra in France, drinking the French water that he said was so great. 1.15 most kills in the lobby. But Neum was the series MVP, plus 18, 98, and 80, 1.23. Talk to the rookie of the year. Nice. And he slammed the man who was really in contention for rookie of the year with the strongest case, that being Kips, with a really, really decisive victory in this series in the head-to-head. So let's get into, well, before we finish overview, Kleenex only player on the Koi side to go positive, not really surprising. Face of the franchise, 105 and 103. Insight, and probably his last series as a professional player, 64 and 90, 0.71. If that's his swan song, that kind of sucks. I was really having fun with Insight in this last little bit of his career if this is the end. So I hate to see it end, but, you know, it's going to be hard for him to justify his spot on a team of really any caliber at this point. The league's so competitive. So, speaking of competitive, map 1 was decidedly not that. It was 250 to 168 in favor of the Thieves. They ran it up on this one behind 31 from Hydra and 33 from Neum himself, the rookie of the year. 1.43 from Heum, 31 and 25 from Paco, 26 and 25 from Abizi, and 27 and 29 from Ernie. On the other side, Kips only player to go positive, but just by a hair, 2 kills. So, map 2 S&D, another quick one. Not really going to get too deep into it. Went 6-3 in favor of the Thieves. Kleenex had 12 and 6 on his side, but when you have Insight going 2 and 7, probably not going to go either way, right? Even effort from the Thieves, not 8 and 5 from Neum, who led the tip of the spear, and that's all she wrote. Speaking of the spear, it was driven through the Koi in this gridlock overload behind 39 kills from Abizi. It was too easy for that man, Mr. Ferris. He dropped him on the Koi boys, and he absolutely willed his team to this victory behind his strong performance in map 3, right? So Abe dropped 40 on the other side in the OT that we got that went pretty deep. The Thieves were able to score within a minute. Koi was able to score with 2 minutes and 49 to go, I believe. And that's all she wrote, right? So Abe was 40 and 31. Kleenex was 36 and 35, 26 and 29 from Jamie Insight. So solid performance from him. And then Kips was 31 and 31. Now, in the Hossie map 4, where the series ended and the season ended for movie star Koi, conversely, Abizi went 25 and 24. Hydra was 33 and 22. Neum was 28 and 20. And Scrap was 26 and 27. So when Scrap's doing his part, LA Thieves, they're getting wins. Big surprise, right? On the other side, everybody on the Koi side was negative. -1 for Abe, -1 for Kleenex. Insight, -12, 14 and 26. And then Kips, just -6. So that's how Toronto's year ended. I mean, Insight was kind of, he's a traffic cone. Easy to get around him. And yeah, that's all that can be said. So, speaking of people that were not easy to get around, we had the Paris Gentlemen putting up a great, valiant effort to extend the series as much as they could. They tried to win at home in Paris with the crowd buff, but the Team Falcons side was just too strong. Aluka is built diff. Truly, he was the series MVP, most kills on his team. Obviously, Cell, as you can see, had the best KD with the 1.11. But Aluka is him. He's here to stay. And he proved to everyone that, he's a solid talent and he's not just a, one and done kind of player. His champs performance was not a fluke. He was able to sustain that in a 7-game series. And also he did it in the last 2 best of 5s that Falcons played before this one. So looking at the map one, of course, well, let's look at the series overview. 124 and 120 for Luca, 1.03, 16,000 damage. Cell, King Cobra, 15k damage, 114 and 103, 1.11 KD. Exnib minus 27, so that's rough, but got the win, so who cares? 115 and 142. Then the Bulldog went even 122 and 122, so Bulldog had a great series, all things considered. Playing your role and going even. If you're Kismet, getting 16,000 damage, you did great. So looking on the other side, of course, Estriel was amazing in the S&Ds. 127 and 123, 1.03 KD. Ghosty, 116 and 114. Ghosty was really solid. If you watch yesterday's video, I criticized his inconsistency overall, but he was very consistent in this one, so great performance from him. Joe Deceives, of course. Joseph Deceivicus deceived everyone as per usual, map by map, and he looks great. 125 and 121, and then Mr. Sib Nonchalante was 117 and 120. Not sure what the Gelmates do going forward, but I'm pretty sure that Sib and Ghosty are on lay chopping block. Speaking of the chopping block, the Falcons prepared it in a close series in a close map one on Den. Of course, this is a hard point. Map one's always hard point in the CDL. 25 and 33 from the Wonder Kid Aluka, 31 and 23 from Mr. Celium himself, 28 and 33 from Exnid, and 33 and 27 from Kiz. On the losing side for the Gentlemates, you of course had Ghosty going +1, Estriel 28 and 32, so not that negative, Joe going even, and then Civ being +1. In the map 2, Raid S&D, this of course was a 6-2 in favor of the Gentlemates, not really close at all. 14 and 5 from Estriel. This was an Estriel takeover. It was really just him getting kills the whole time, and that's really the story. Speaking of the story in the map 3, this one went to overtime. Yeah, this was overtime. Every overload in the series went to overtime, and the Gentlemate side were able to pull this one out. They were able to get it done in a really, really close 3-2 behind 37 and 30 from Sib. And then on the other side, you had 37 and 29 from Luca. Sib and Luca had matching KDs for so long in this map. It was really weird. It was like they would keep killing and dying and getting you the same stats and just parking there. Very odd, but yeah, solid 27 and 25. Kiz -8, so worst map that he had in this series. And then Exnid -2. On the other side, you of course had Ghosty going -6, Estrel going -2, so negligible for both of them. And then Joe going +1 to complement Sib. So in the map for Sake HP, speaking of people who were complimented, Kismet was complimented by Aluka. Kismet had 28 and 19, Aluka had 24 and 17, so they were just really untradeable to a large degree. Selling was 19 and 18, and then Exnib was just a meager -2. On the Gentlemate side, you of course had Estriel -4, Ghosty with a 16 and 22, so not that bad. 24 and 24 from Joe, the only player to go even or positive, and then Sib, just a meager -5 for the loss here. So that just goes to show that Sake is not all about slaying. It's really about efficient slaying and how you can really translate your slays to effective time. So speaking of translating slays to effective wins and time and objectives, the Gelmates were able to do that in this map 5. Gridlock S&D behind a really strong performance from Dan Ghosty, who was 7 and 2 in this map. Estrel was 7 and 4, Sib was 7 and 3, and Joe was 6 and 5. On the other side, everyone on Falcons went negative, the most egregious being Celium, who was 1 and 7. So in the Den Overload, this was another OT thriller that went the way of the Falcons side behind 28 and 19 from Aluka, the Wonder Kid. Who else, right? 23 and 17 from Celium as AR duo. Exim was -11 and Kiz was -8. So, just a carry from the ARs really. But when the KDs are this tight, every kill matters in context, but sometimes the takeover can really like erase a bad performance from another player on your same team, right? Because they were plus 15 between the ARs, and then the SMGs are minus 19. So it's minus 4 overall. When you think about it, it kind of evens out. On the other side, it was exactly even, right? You can see Ghosty and Estro were plus 6, and Civ and Jodeci's were minus 6. So the slaying was incredibly even for the general mates. 23 and 22 from Estro. Ghosty was 25 and 20, 26 and 27 from Joe Deceives, and Civ was 21 and 26. So as you guys can see, Mates were slaying the whole time. No one really had a letdown map. It was just honestly objective efficiency and key plays made by the Falcons in this game. Speaking of efficiency and key plays made by the Falcons, they were able to do that in the game 5 on Den S&D. They were able to chain the overload on Den into another successful S&D win. As you guys can see, they won every single Den in this series, and then Asake for good measure. I guess you could say that Raid and Gridlock are just two maps that they're not good at, as they got really, really cooked on both. So looking at it, of course, to close things out, Kismet, the Bulldog, was barking 8 and 5, 9 and 7 from Exnid. Cell was 9 and 7 himself. And then Aluka, the Wonder Kid, he didn't really have to do much in this one. He got carried, the inverse of what happened in the game 5 at Champs, right, where he was 11 and 4 or something. And then, yeah, on the other side, Estro was 9 and 8. Ghosty was 7 and 8. Joe Deceives was 8, and Sib was 4 and 6. So nobody on the Gelmate side really did that badly. Just a close series, and they didn't come out the victors. Now, speaking of people who have something to absolutely be embarrassed about, Faze definitely have to be embarrassed about the way that this turned out, because it was not close. Optic, they came to play today, and Faze, they just looked completely different from how they looked at Champs. So looking at it, of course, I'm sorry, not Dashy. Shotzi was the kill leader for the Optic Texas side, 91 kills, 73 deaths. He was hard to kill on this one. Mercules, the mullet, the savior of Optic, whatever you want to call him, he was in a similar vein, 91 and 75. Dashy was 87 and 76. And then Hoop was slightly negative, -9, 76 and 85. But when your teammates are doing everything they need to do, who really cares, right? So on the other side, you of course had 04 going +1, Abuza going -23, having one of his worst series of the year when it really mattered. Draza -7, so negligible. And then Simp was -10. So that was really just certain maps in the series that dragged him down. Really the frequency, right? So let's look at the box scores. Not a lot to really get into. The map 1 is the most interesting in the set. So we had 41 and 34 from 04. Abuza was 23 and 33. Draza was 30 and 33. And Simp was 34 and 32. On the Optic Texas side, of course, you had Dashy going nuts, 31 and 33. Hook was 26 and 34, so just a slow start for him. Mercules and Shotzi went absolutely insane. They combined for 75 kills, 39 and 35 from Merc, and then 36 and 26 from the Warlord. Looking at the map too, of course, Optic Texas continued that same momentum, and they were able to decisively take this map too, 6-3 behind a 8 and 5 scoreline from the Mullet, Mercules, savior of Optic, whatever you want to call him. And then Dashy complimented him with 7 and 7. So the Optic ARs came to play. And this one, Hook and Shotzi both had 6, 9 deaths for Shotzi, and then 7 deaths for Hook. On the other side, 04 was 8 and 7. The only player on Faze to really, really stand out along with Simp, 9 and 6. And then the Zaza Bros, I mean, they didn't do that bad. It was just Optic. They ran it and they clutched. They made so many clutch plays when it mattered. Speaking of making clutch plays when it mattered, Optic did the same thing on this Scar overload. They had a really big lead the entire time. They had map control and just overall control in the slaying and the objective work this whole map. So not really too surprising to see that they won it when, as a collective, they were plus 12 or plus 13. I'm sorry. So looking at it, of course, you guys can see Abuza was 12 and 17. 04 was 21 and 23. Draza was 21 and 26. And Simp was 21 and 24. So everyone on Faze went negative. They honestly just got cooked here. And then on the Optic side, they were doing the cooking on some Gordon Ramsay shit. So Dashy 25 and 16, 23 and 23 from Hoop the Nuke, 18-17 from the Savior of Optic, and then the Warlord took over and he was 24 and 21. Now, in the closeout go home map for the key, where Optic was able to take Faze's key and put it in that hydraulic press, they were able to take it, putting them in the 100-point club, 250 to 94, behind 26 and 18 for Mercules. He got an insane 3-piece at the end of the game that was, wow, chef's kiss. I mean, 25 and 17 from Shotzi, 21 and 21 from Hook, and then 24 and 20 from Mr. Bruce himself. On the Faze side, only player to go positive was the CEO himself, Dashy with the Dashy draws with the 1.08, but Simp was 16 and 28, worst performance in the series. That was really what dragged his KD down. And yeah, 16-28 is not going to get it done. Minus 12 for the Champs MVP. Abuza was minus 6, and then 04 was minus 5 for the L. So that's how that went down. And yeah, let's get into pick'ems for tomorrow, how I think things will play out in our last matchup of the weekend. I think that the Team Heretics side, they've looked really good. Falcons, they looked really good against Gentlemates. I feel in terms of like who's been tested more, G2, they looked really good, but if you look at it, they did not play good teams in their difficulty of schedule. They played C9 and let's look. So G2 played C9 and they played Omit, right? I'm sorry, this is not Omit. No, it is. Oh wait, no, that's Gentlemates. I'm tripping. G2 played C9 and then they also played Gentlemates. That's what it is. They played Mates. Right. So they beat Mates. They did beat a good team. And then they honestly just fell apart against Heretics. Heretics went up 3-1, and we already dissected that series. But yeah, I feel like Falcons, even though Heretics were playing some really good COD, Metals played the series of his life, and that really catapulted the Heretics to that dub. Otherwise, I feel like the momentum would have been probably a little bit different in that series. G2 was playing decent COD, but the Heretics just had one of those days where everything clicked for them, and they played a phenomenal series. It can happen to anybody in any competition. That's just how competitive things work. Now, in the rubber match between 100 Thieves and Optic Gaming, a rematch from the Major 3 and Major 4 Grand Finals, where they are currently sat 1-1. Optic took Major 4. LA Thieves, of course, took Major 3. I think 100 Thieves take it this time. I think they go up 2-1 in best of sevens against Optic Texas on the year. And I think that they book a ticket to the grand finals where they face Falcons. I think 100 Thieves are able to take the grand finals. I believe grand finals are best of 9. And I think Thieves probably take it 5-3. I think that the MVP will likely be Neum. And I think that's how it gets done. There are a lot of overloads in the grand finals, and Thieves are really good at overload, and Falcons are not as good at overload, so I think that'll be the difference maker. Hardpoint, I think they're pretty even. If not, Falcons have a slight edge. S&D, I think Thieves definitely have an edge, so I think they win the grand finals. I think their S&D is a lot better than Optics right now as well, and I think that their hardpoint will probably be just a little bit better. It all comes down to the map pool that comes through. I think if the green wall gets frequency and the similar maps that we saw in the series against FaZe, I think they win. But I think if 100 Thieves get Hossie, and maps are a lot stronger for them decidedly in this matchup. And just on the season overall, couple scars, I think that they'll do really well. They played a map that's not in their repertoire when they played McCoy on frequency. I think they played them on frequency, right? Let's go back and double check. I'm sorry, they played them on gridlock. They banned Scar Overload because they were game planning for Optic, right? They knew that Scar Overload would come through against Optic. They wanted to play a map that they had yet to play, which is Gridlock Overload. And yeah, I think the Optic Texas will definitely give Thieves a run for their money, but I think Thieves come out ahead. There's just too much riding on this for them. They have too much egg on their face. Optic just made Champs Grand Finals. They obviously want to go back to back, but I just feel like Thieves has a much more intense monkey on their back than Optic does right now. And we saw what happened when FaZe had a more intense monkey on their back at Champs with the back-to-back 7th through 8th placings for Draza, and then back-to-back second places for 04 and Abuza, and back-to-back second places at Champs and EWC. They had a fire lit under them for Champs that could really not be matched by Optic. And I think similarly for Ernie and 100 Thieves, I think that really just the desire to win EWC is going to catapult them to a really, really signature and important win over Optic Gaming tomorrow. And then in the grand finals, like I said, I think that the Thieves take it. So in the third place matchup, I think we see Heretics versus Optic Texas. I'm sorry, Optic Texas, Optic Gaming. And I think that Optic take it pretty convincingly, right? I think it'll probably be a 4-0 or a 4-1 for the green wall. Maybe because Optic are a little bit demoralized dropping to the third place match. If they do, then Heretics take it, but I think Optic take it, right? So yeah, guys, I'll just about wrap it up for me. Hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night, like I always say on these videos. And I will catch you guys on Tuesday for a recap video. I might do one tomorrow night on Sunday night, but we'll see. feels a little bit redundant when I'm going to do a full in-depth recap on Tuesday. So yeah, guys, catch you in a couple of days for a recap video. Hope you have a great morning, noon, and night. Like I said before, hope you enjoyed all the COD. And if you missed anything, of course, you know where to find all the highlights on my YouTube page. So catch you guys with more COD tomorrow and on Tuesday. See you then. Once again, this is Chris from Esports News, Exhortation, however the flip you know these interwebs, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday with another video like this. Peace.